Hello and welcome to Minis-N-Muscles. I always forget that every week. God, it's the same old thing. How is everybody? It's Friday. You've made it to the end of the week. Congratulations. Always a congratulations due there when you made it to the end of the week. It's important to recognise that, so well done. Welcome to the place where the brawn meets the brush. We are here. We are live. We've already got people online already. That's fantastic. So welcome to anyone that is watching online, and welcome to those of you that are watching it on catch up. So if you decided just to hop on the channel, take a look and see what we're talking about, what we're doing, then welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with me. Oh, so Friday, what's everyone been up to? Is everyone ready for the weekend? Hopefully you are. Hopefully you have some very pleasant plans. Apart from tonight where I'm streaming, my plans on Sunday is a pure paint-a-thon, which I'm very much looking forward to. I've got some models to paint of my own that I'm trying to get through my pile of shame, so I'll be doing that. But that's my plan. What is everyone else up to? Drop me a line in the chat. Let me know how you are. Let me know what your week's been like, what you're doing. Drop in anything, let me know, and start that chat going. So again, thank you for joining me. Let's have a recap on last week and where we were. So last week we spoke massively around the Warhammer world, and my passion for that, what stemmed from my childhood, and just liking the cool miniatures that were about, all the way through to me being very excited, because last weekend I played my first ever game of Warhammer. It was brilliant. I got together with two of my buddies who are also fairly new to Warhammer, but they knew a lot more than me. They played a lot more than I have, because I've never played before. And we got together, got me and a buddy versus one other, because he had an army larger than ours. And we played Warhammer. It was very, very cool. So if any of you have ever seen Warhammer, and have thought, oh, well, that's quite an interesting game. It looks quite cool. I like the minis. I like the lore or whatever it is. I 100% would suggest for anyone to go play Warhammer. It is very, very cool. It's slightly slow because I was learning, but it's really, really easy, actually. It's not that bad. There are some complexities in the rules. But really cool game. Lots of dice rolling, which is fun, and you always get frustrated when you don't get the dice rolls you want. But it is a very, very cool game. So I played Warhammer last week. We spoke about Warhammer as well. We spoke about the various different sort of armies and factions that you can play as. I spoke about my sort of two favourite armies that I want to play as is Space Marines and the Sisters of Battle. Although last week's stream was a little bit short because I had to cut it short after the hour, so there was plenty more to talk about, but we started talking about those and things like Warhammer lore and the books that you can read. So not only is Warhammer a tabletop game, it is actually a book series. So there's loads of different books on the different historical events that have happened in the Warhammer world, be that Age of Sigmar, which is that sort of old-fashioned fight with knives and axes, versus 40k, which is your shoot with guns. So it was very, very cool. That is a nice addition to Warhammer, and there's plenty of other things as well from that I've seen at Comic Cons, from people dressing up in Warhammer outfits all the way through to a lot of other stuff. So very cool hobby. On today's agenda though, what are we talking about on Minis-N-Muscles today? Well, actually what we're talking about is, I thought we'd talk about board games this Friday night. So whilst we're going back to painting our model of Grombrindle, and here he is. In fact, let's swap cameras so you can take a look at him here. So here is Grombrindle. This is what he currently looks like. Got a little bit of detail around the shield and things like that. I did quickly just drop a load of green on the orc head here and quickly did his tusks, just because I was shaking up some paints and I thought it looked quite cool. But this is what he's looking like at the moment. Tonight we will probably do some skin tones. We will probably do his gloves and any other sort of browns that we can slip in there as well. So that is what he looks like at the moment. So we will go back to painting Grombrindle. And whilst we're doing that, we're going to talk about board games. I think everybody in the world has probably played a board game at some point. And actually that's, I think for me personally, what brought me into this kind of hobby anyway, that sort of love as a kid of board games. So we'll talk about that. And also, of course, on every Minis and Muscles, it wouldn't be the Muscles without the talk of fitness. So tonight we will talk a little bit about fitness, and I think I've decided that I'm going to talk about what I feel consists of a good workout and just a couple of exercises, and just a little bit of advice on maybe a kind of training program that you might want to partake in or pick up yourselves in your own time. So that's the agenda for tonight. It's pretty packed. We will see what we can get through and what we can't in the time that it allows. But on the first part, because it is minis and we're always talking about painting miniatures, which is a very big passion of mine, and I'm sure it's a passion of yours. Have you got your minis ready tonight? So have you got your mini out, and have you got him ready or she ready to paint? So I've got my mini, I've got Grombrindle back again, and we're going to just start doing a little bit more detail on this guy, because I really want to get him cracked, because he's looking cool right now, but I mean, I think I just chat so much on here, I end up missing what I should be doing. So let's swap over to our side cam, and let's start a little bit of painting whilst we're waiting for a few people to drop in on the chat. There was a couple of people there a minute ago. Hopefully you will be back there in a minute. So I'm opening up my wet palette as usual. I've topped it up with a bit of fresh water. I've got my fresh water here. Doesn't look fresh, it's in that dirty pot again. But we are ready to rock. And where we're going to start tonight, I think, let's have a look. In fact, let's do his face, because it looks a bit odd with his big old beard there and no skin tone or anything. So for a bit of skin tone, I am going to be using this paint here, which is Kislev Flesh. I'm using that paint. It's another Citadel paint. They're not the best paints, but they're not the worst paints either. I quite like them. I've just got a massive stack of them, so I'll continue to use them till they're used up. I think we talked last week about how I think that their paints have got a little bit off recently, and some of the new paints that I've bought just don't seem to be the same quality. I mean, maybe that's me and my old man ways, you know, cream eggs aren't as big as what they used to be type sketch. But let's just move my oh god, I can't even find the right place to put my X now. Look. Oh no, look, it's because it's mirrored. And I have this X here just so I know where to place the model, because otherwise you guys won't see him. So I've got my paint on, I've thinned him down a little bit, and I'm just going to start to put on a little bit of skin tone onto his face. It can be nice and thin at the moment. Don't worry if the dark of the undercoat pops through. That's completely okay. Remember, at this stage it's just a first layer. Oh, so we've had our first chat come in. That's Hells. What's Hells saying? Have you started painting anything else, or just this one? Well, I do paint a lot of other minis in my non-streaming times. So yes, Hells, the answer is 100% yes. I've started painting, well, I can probably show you actually in a second. I started painting a little D&D figure, so a little Dungeons and Dragons figure, and it's a Eladrin, which is an elf type character. I haven't decided on her class yet, but I have given her a name, and the character's name is Helenia Yorson. So she's on there, and she's getting painted at the moment. So that is one I'm painting at the moment. So D&D figure. I spoke about Warhammer and sort of how I really liked that first game I played, and I do have, weirdly, a lot of Warhammer figures. I've just not played it a lot. So one of my intents is to clear my pile of shame and actually paint some of these darn Warhammer figures that I've got. And they're awesome, by the way. I say darn as if it's terrible. It's terrible that I haven't painted them. But I plan to paint some more of those. So Sunday I'll be doing my own little paint-a-thon. Sat in the man cave here, and I'll be painting away. But yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. And I'm going to try and do Sisters of Battle army. So that's who I'd like to do. When you're doing things like the face on here, I'm doing this very small sort of area where his lips would be. Right? Even if I go over the edge, don't worry. Just get the paint in there, as long as it's not too heavy. That's the problem. When people do really heavy paint, that's when painting over the edge becomes a massive issue. Or as politicians say, issue. How I probably should say it. So if I just rest him there. So I was talking a second ago about other figures. So other minis that I'm painting. So here is, this is just like very quick base coating of different colours, and I was just sort of testing out what the colours look like on this figure. So I went with the kind of reddy browny kind of hair, green top, blue sort of trousers with this sort of two-phase boot, dark brown, sort of lightish brown. And I haven't done anything else. I started to paint a little bit of armour on the tops of her shoulders there, but that's about it. But there, that's Helena Yorson. And I painted the base as well, just a quick sort of brickwork base. So that's what I'm doing, Hells, at the moment. Aside from this, that is. So back to our little man, Grombrindle. Yeah. So when you're doing this paint, go light. Make sure it's mixed well. And if you do go over the edge, then you don't have to panic and think, "Oh my God, how the hell am I going to cover that up?" Because cover-ups are easy to do when the paint is thin. So I'm not sure if you can hear my background music at the moment. Hopefully you can. So I think I mentioned it before actually. It's a very cool app called Pocket Bard. So if you're ever playing D&D, this is the app you want for your thematical background music. It is awesome. It's a free app. You can pay for extra packages. And by the way, I'm not sponsored to say any of this, but it's a really, really cool app. You can change the music from how it's playing now, sort of background, to a combat theme, to victory music. It's pretty awesome. I would 100% recommend this app to anybody. So, just washing my paint off. But yeah, tonight's topic is board games. Almost forgot, is board games. So I wanted to, talk about how I got into them. So I remember as a kid, many moons ago, I used to love playing board games and see them in the shops. They'd look absolutely awesome. But the problem I had as a kid is that my sister didn't really want to play board games. My dad absolutely hated board games. He would never play a board game in a million years, or a computer game or anything like that. And then it'd be down to my poor old mum, who would have to then suffer and play board games with me. As a kid, as most kids do, I did cheat a little bit. So, apologies, mum, for cheating, or my sister actually. So I did cheat on board games as a kid, which was, standard how it goes. But I really fell in love with a lot of different board games back then. I think one that really stood out for me was, and I'm looking over there because I actually have a copy over there, an original copy from the 80s, Hero Quest. That's a brilliant game. The person that showed me the game isn't a brilliant person, an absolute idiot, but the game itself is mega. Great little game, and sort of fantasy based with your set of band of heroes. So it's a bit sort of like very light Dungeons and Dragons, I guess, and easy to play as well. It's not that expensive, so if you've got kids, you know, you can buy a game of Hero Quest and play with them if they're into that sort of fantasy kind of Tolkien type world. So we're just onto Grombrindle's gloves at the moment, so just working round. They're quite intricate actually. As you look into these gloves, you can't really see some of the detail because it's black, but they are pretty intricate. They've got like little a metal band that goes round. He's got like a set of brass knuckles across the top as well, so that's quite cool. So we're just doing that at the moment. But yeah, board games. So I think everybody as well starts their life, right, playing Monopoly. You are sitting there now thinking, yeah, of course I played Monopoly. Everybody plays Monopoly, and I think that's probably people's first introductions to board games. Whether that is a good introduction or a bad introduction, I will leave that to your decision. But you know, Monopoly's all right. It can just, for me, it can just go on a little bit too long. I remember playing one game, absolutely ridiculous. It was about 7 hours or something, and by that point, you just lose the will to live. And that was just too much for me. But Monopoly, that was probably the other game aside from Hero Quest that I got into. And it really started from there, and I think, like I say, that sort of stemmed my overall passion for just playing games in general. But, like I say, my family weren't really a board gamey kind of family. So, it was, you know, playing by yourself, or rope me poor old dear into doing some board games with me, and she probably wouldn't mind. Hello, Mum, if you're watching. Probably did mind when I cheated a bit though. That was probably the moment. So, who's in chat tonight? How are you? What's your Friday consist of? What are you up to? How has your week been? Come on, drop it in chat. Tell me what's been going on. Tell me what you're up to. Do not be shy. Whoever you are, wherever you are, tell me what's going on. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Make sure I get right round the edges on this model, because the thing is, these little models, they are, what's the right word? Pernickety, is that the right word? Fiddly? Fiddly, probably the right word. Sorry, I'm taking the model out of shot there, guys. Apologies. You have to jump in the chat and tell me if I do that, just to make sure I get back in focus again, so you guys actually see what I'm painting rather than talking gibberish and seeing nothing. Yeah, so, what's this? I was saying, probably looking at buying a caravan on a site. Oh, maybe painting bolt hole. What's that? I can't see. There's a stupid little thing on here that just means that I can't see all of the chat. It's like an emoji thing. I don't want the emoji thing there. Why does it do this to me? Maybe a painting bolt hole. Oh, crikey. So buying a caravan on a site. Ooh, okay, that's cool though. Mad fact. For about 18 months when I left the military, I lived in a caravan. Yeah, 18 months. About that. That was a hard time. Fun time, because I learnt a lot from it. Good experience. Honeyman 42, excited for a no plan weekend after a long week of dealing with people. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I literally didn't stop myself. I was on pretty much back-to-back calls, and that's, you know, not always the case for a Friday. I was on back-to-back calls for most of the week. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. And even today I didn't finish till 5:30. Don't mind working till 5:30 on a Friday, but it's always nice if you can finish at 5 instead of 5:30, right? But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I always lose my thought of track. So I was saying about living in a caravan. Yeah, so living in a caravan, static home, mobile home, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, lived in that for almost 2 years. That was a good time. Learnt lots from it. So what's the motivation, Hells, for buying a caravan? Is that purely holiday? Is it investment? What's this then? And Honey Ann, so you're saying about no plans. What about plans for board gaming? So you're going to play a board game this weekend, seeing as that is the topic of choice here on Minis-N-Muscles this Friday night. Talking of board games, are you going to be playing a board game? So I'm just trying to get the rest of the colour in for old Grombrindle's gloves. So they're finished off. Should be nice. Yeah, so what have I got here? So that was my sort of first introductions to board games, was as a child through Monopoly largely, and Hero Quest. I did play a lot of card games, especially over my grandparents' house. They liked card games, and I remember taking like my 1 and 2p's to my grandparents' house. So very small change, you know. If you're in the US, that'll be like, you know, 5 cents or so, not a lot. Or if you're in Europe, actually, it'll be cents as well. So which it is now, makes it easier. So there was very small change I'd take to my grandparents, and we'd play these sort of crazy card games. I'd save over the year, I'd save all my 2p's up and 1p's, so all the small change that I could find to take to my grandparents' house at the end of the year to play games at Christmas. That was like the big thing. So you'd save your money, or try to save your money for the whole year, and then you play card games. Apart from that, I never really got into things like blackjack and that kind of stuff, and poker. I can play it barely, but you know, it was not really my thing. However, card games now, they're pretty cool, and we'll probably cover off a bit of that later as well. We'll talk about that, because I really like card games. There's one that I'm going to recommend tonight for you to go play, and if you haven't played it, I'll tell you to go buy it. It doesn't matter if you've got kids or if you're 50, it's an awesome game. So I recommend, or I will be making a recommendation, should I say. So getting that colour in. So this is taking it. Oh god, I keep taking him out of camera. So there, he's just getting his. He's got his skin tone in. He's got both his gloves done, which is quite nice. So that's pretty cool. So I need to let those gloves dry. So let's shake this. Oh, shake! I say shake it off, but let's just rinse off my brush. Yeah, so board games of recent have become like a massive resurgence. I don't know if you've seen it in your area or your city or your town or your country, but board games over here in the UK at least, people are starting to play them again. And I think probably COVID had a massive, I just said the C word, sorry, but that probably had a massive driver towards people playing board games. So what you found over here in the UK is that people are starting to open up board game shops, so specific shops just to play board games. They have, like, you know, your sodas and your drinks and things like that that are available, cakes, sweets, you know, confectionery type thing, and just a table where you can go there for X amount of money, take a board game off the shelf, and just play it and sitting in the shop, which is really nice. There is one in my local town here. That's really cool. There's one in a town that I go to that's about 10 minutes down on the train. That's also really, really good. And I'll be going there tomorrow morning to see a friend of mine. So that's super cool. But yeah, there's been a massive resurgence. They've become really popular again, or it certainly feels like they're starting to become popular again. And I can only put that down to COVID and people being sat inside doing not a lot. Has anyone experienced that whilst they were sort of what's the word called when you have to isolate? That's the one. Did anyone find that during the COVID era, that when they were in isolation they sort of sat there with family and actually played a board game more? Can you concur my thoughts and my rationale as to why there's been a resurgence in board games? I'd love to hear from your experiences if you have seen or felt the same. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking a bit of a darker brown, slightly, because the brown that I use for the gloves is a reddy kind of brown. This one is more sort of traditional brown colour, because there's a few sort of handles and things like that that are knocking about on this model. So as we're looking at him here, there's like a little spear there, a spear there, and I just wanted to fill the handles because they need some love, because it looks odd leaving them black. So I thought whilst we're here doing the browns, well, why not? Yeah, so it's nice to play a board game. The reason why I really like board games, and actually, you know, it's also the reason why I really love Dungeons and Dragons. It's why I really enjoyed playing Warhammer the other day. For one ultimate reason: getting people together. Like, I don't know about you guys that are listening and watching, but if you have a busy job, I have a busy job, and you know, I find it's quite stressful. So actually, you know, getting a group of people together that you enjoy you're getting a group of people together that you enjoy the company, you know, and actually being sitting down around a table and playing a game is awesome. It's so much fun. You know, you have a right laugh with your buddies. It's really cool. It's a nice way to chill out and relax. I cannot think of a better way to spend my weekend, to be fair. I would quite happily play board games every single weekend, if I could get away with it, that is. You know, if I didn't have to do adulting crap jobs all the time, because that's not fun at all. So yeah, so just painting this little pole at the moment on the shaft of this spear, should I say. And again, you know, I mentioned earlier in an earlier stream, that is, I got very excited putting this model together just because I thought he was cool. I thought, right, I'm just going to glue him together, and I just completely lost myself in my usual practice. And my usual practice is not to not to glue the whole model together, because as soon as you glue the whole model together, you're kind of stuck. You're limited on what you can see and what you can't. So like now, for example, trying to paint the behind of this this handle of this spear is really difficult. So you have to sort of get into all these sort of really crazy little positions just to get a little bit of paint off. It's freaking annoying. So don't do what I did there and get excited and build the model first. Build it in part, but take a look as you're building and think, all right, before I place that on, where does that sit? How does that look on the model? What will it stop me getting to? Massively important question to ask yourself, because if you don't, you'll soon find yourself in a similar position to me, where you cannot do anything, which is absolutely frustrating. So I'm just going to close that colour up. I'll go for a lighter brown. Bring the lighter brown in. Yeah, so we talked about my past in board games. What about the present, and what am I doing and playing at the moment? Oh, great question. I'm like quizzing myself here. So at the moment, board game wise, I still have Hero Quest. If anyone wants to play Hero Quest, chuck us a DM. I'll play Hero Quest with you. Would absolutely love to. I have that in my collection. It's literally sat just opposite me. I do have quite a few board games. My buddies call me the collector, and I do like collecting things sometimes. So I have a few board games. Some, like one, a really cool board game I've never even had the opportunity to play because I have not necessarily the time to play it with everybody. So that's a huge frustration, having the time to do so. Or having, not necessarily the time, because I probably have the time, but actually it's more like time alignment with your mates. So are they free at that point to be able to play that game at the same time that you're free? Not always easy to orchestrate. So yeah, so that's one of my annoyances. That's why it's always nice to have a hobby like this where you can just please yourself, you know, go and paint a model whenever you want. You can chill and relax in your own time. Oh god, I keep on going out of frame. Remind myself. Yeah, so I've got, as I said, Hero Quest. One I really liked, I played with a bunch of friends not so long ago. Betrayal on the House on the Hill. That's a really cool game. So really good board game that you lay out, and it's got lots of different tiles. And it starts off with like as a cooperative game, and as things change in the house, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil your if you do play it. But as things change in the house and the storyline kind of progresses, because it's a story-based game, as that storyline progresses, things change and the scenario changes in the house. So you might one minute be the good guy and the next minute you're the bad guy. It's awesome. Absolutely brilliant game that is. So if you have not played Betrayal on the House of the Hill, 100% get yourself on Vinted or eBay or whatnot and buy that up, because that's a great game. I think there's quite a few players you can play on that. So I think it's at least 6 players you can get on there. So it's helpful if you've got like a big group of friends, so you can cater for everybody. But yeah, that's a really good game. I liked that a lot. What other games? So let's think of cooperative games. Blood on the Clock Tower. That's a great game. That's a really cool cooperative game. In Blood of the Clock Tower, you have a bit like Dungeons and Dragons. You have like a narrator, so the person that sort of tells the story. But essentially, everyone that plays, and you can have loads of people as well. So if you've got a massive, like, I don't know, birthday party, engagement party or something, you can all play this game. So it's called Blood on the Clock Tower. You all get a role and you become a villager of some sort. So you might have to do X, you might have to do Y, and you have a certain role in the village. And basically you have to try and identify who the bad people, again, I don't want to say too much, but who the bad people are. Once you've identified who the bad people are, it's sort of, you sit there, you get, sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. When you've got to find out who the bad people are, how do you go about doing that? Well, every sort of in-game day, you have the opportunity to speak to the other villagers. So you get up out of your seat and you speak to the rest of the people that are playing the game, and you quiz them as if you're this villager. That's so cool, because it's a bit of a game of deception, you know, and you've got to try and find your allies, because what you're trying to understand when you're speaking to everybody is who's good and who's bad. So you'll sit there and you'll quiz them, and you'll be like really suspicious of different individuals that are playing, and you'll be like, oh, who's what are you then? And then you get someone bluffing you because they're the bad guy, and then you've got to suss them out. And every end of the day, you get to then sit together and you get to nominate if you think you've found a bad guy. And then the group sort of nominates and you vote on whether to kill the bad guy or not. So that happens, and then at night time you all sit there, close your eyes, and the bad guys can kill one of the villagers. So you wake up, you open your eyes, the narrator's sort of telling you all of this, you open your eyes, and one of the villagers is dead. You're like, oh my god, you haven't found the right person. So, you know, it goes all through it again. So that's Blood on the Clock Tower. That is a really cool, fun game. There's not a lot of pieces, it's not like a board game as such, but it is. But it's a nice cooperative one. So there's two games that I've talked about, which are cooperative games. What about those in the chat? Have you ever have you ever played any cooperative games? If so, what have you played? What are those games you've played? You must have played something. I'd love to know. Stick it in the chat. Tell me what games you've played. Whilst I mix up some paints. I've got that strange paint mixer noise going on. So it sounds very odd. I have set up another camera, so let's try my other camera whilst we're here, just to see what that looks like. Oh yeah, there you go. So you can see the model from a different angle. Oh, that sounds really weird now, doesn't it? As I shake up that paint. Yeah, so there are a couple of good games. So as I'm painting here, I'm going to have to switch back to my detailed camera. You can see him there, look. Oh, it zooms in, look. There you go. Oh, how cool is that? Didn't realise it did that. That's pretty sweet, right? Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to test that camera to see if it works. Let's go to this one so you can see me and the model. So what I'm going to do now is I wanted to do a couple of these handles that are on this edge of the model. So a couple of handles of the weapon. There are lots of different browns. So I don't have a million different browns. So this one here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use just a white. And I'm just going to go over it in white. Well, it's actually not a white. It's a sort of off-white. And then we're going to use a shade to go over the top. So this white that I'm applying now, this off-white, is a paint, so it's slightly thicker. The shade is almost like, and I'll show you in a second, it's almost like a water-based oil. Very watery, very runny. And the best part about it, you don't even have to know how to paint it on. You just slap the stuff on. I mean, not literally, but as long as you don't go too crazy with it, you can, you know, just stick the paint on in any fashion, or this shade on in any fashion, and it looks really good. So it's a nice little trick, and it's a cheaty kind of way to get some of your painting done very, very fast. So, and the reason why I thought I'd use that on this is because the detail is like a, it looks like a sort of a, probably a wooden handle, but it's had like leather wrapped around the handle to give it a better grip. So this shade paint will just make it stand out. So that's what we're going to do. Oh god, I keep on going out of the camera. That's what we're going to do on this one here. So this one right here is now a nice white. So I've never played either of those games. I'm a big fan of Clue. Oh, okay. I take it by Clue you mean Cluedo. Depends where you are, because I think Clue in America, Clue is the American version. Cluedo is the UK version. So it depends where you are as to what you call it. But yes, I actually have, sadly, the Dungeons and Dragons Cluedo version sat just over there. So yeah, that's what I have. So I do have that game. That's a very cool game. That's very tactical as well, isn't it? In how you go about finding who the killer is before you make your nomination, and obviously beating everyone to that, which is actually quite hard, especially if you end up in the wrong rooms, or you just draw a crap pile of cards, or you know, you get stuffed along the way, or someone moves your token. Oh man, that can be quite infuriating, especially if you're on a mission and you're like, all right, okay, I'm off to the the cinema, and I need to then check that room, and I'm going to call and test to see if someone's got XYZ card. So you make a accusation or whatever, and you see who you can scrub off your list. But yeah, that's a very cool game. I like Cluedo. But there are lots of board games out there. Plenty of cool board games, and there's loads. And it's just a nice opportunity to play with your mates. That's all it is for me, really. Like, even when I've played, and I do still play every now and then, computer games. So, and I'll play with my mates, but for me, it's not really about playing the game. It's about just being online with your buds and playing with them. It's not really about, for me, it's not really about the game. So I won't like sit there and play a one-player game all by myself. That would vary. I don't think I've done that for years. Played a one-player game by myself, purely because it's just not fun. I'm quite a social person. I like speaking to people. I like interacting with people. So, you know, sitting there playing a game by yourself is kind of dull. So I'd rather play with people. That's much more interesting. So who else we got in chat? Who's about? How's your Friday? How's your week been? If you've just joined us. It's 7:45 already. Where have you been, chat? Where have you been hiding? So I'm just going to turn back to this handle here and get out some contrast paints. So I've got two here. There's one, so that's snakebite leather, and there's two Gilliman flesh. So I'll just shake these up. Yeah, so where have you been, chat, this evening? Or where are you going this evening? Perhaps you're on your way out. Perhaps you're, you know, sprucing up, getting ready to go out. Perhaps you're off to play a board game. That would be interesting. If anyone's off to play a board game tonight, that would be really cool. I would love to hear from you. With these contrast paints, okay, what you don't need to do is you don't need to add these to your wet palette. These are good to go, fresh out of the pot. So if you see here, it's like a kind of oily water almost. It's really, really runny. So you don't need to thin this down. You could do, actually, you can actually, to be fair, but you don't need to. So let's just apply the contrast over the top of this white colour, and it's really cool because it sits in all the crevices and the cracks. When it sits in the crevices and the cracks, it just brings all of the detail out of the mould. Again, as long as you have a finely detailed model, it will bring that out, which is super cool. So just little tiny bits. You don't need loads. You don't need to go over the top. Go over the top. It's very visible and it just looks crap. So just go steady, and we'll actually do the same shortly to the beard as well, because old Grombrindle's beard needs a bit of definition. But I don't know if you can see that. There you go. Should be able to see that. I'm just trying to get the right angle, but you can see how that handle has got sort of depth to it and lines to it where all the detail is. So it's pretty good. And that's a really simple, easy technique. So go light on the paint that you're putting on the bottom layer there, and then just take one of your contrasts or washes or shades, contrasts, and spread that across nice and thinly and evenly, and you'll get a really cool effect around some of the detail on the model. So we've got a couple more people watching. So come on, join in the chat. Don't be shy. Who are you? I'm not sure if I like this music that's on in the background. Does anyone else like that music? It's meant to be called The Ancient Grove. So I'm going to change it to The Forest. Tell me if you can hear that music, and if you like that music, or maybe you did like the last one. But I was getting kind of annoyed with the moaning, singing. But this one's called The Forest. So, Pocket Bard. Get it, use it, try it. It's brilliant. So we spoke about Grombrindle's beard. Now, we want to make that, instead of white, look like greyish. So, we're actually going to use this product here. So, Nuln oil. Give it a little shake up. It's the same kind of thing. So, it's that watery based... it's not a contrast, it's a shade, this one. But, anyway, it's a really good... it's a dark kind of blacky kind of grey. So again, you don't need a huge amount on your paintbrush, but it's time to now spread this across some of the finer details in his hair, his beard, just to make it stand out and make it look more 3D. And you'll see what I mean once I start applying this. But anyway, back to our games. So we're talking about board games, we're talking about what makes them special and why we are interested in them and why they're good fun. So I've talked about how I like them because it's about interacting with your friends. And that's the main reason I play them. We talked about a few different board games that we like in terms of what I started with. But what am I playing at the moment? So, one game. Have you got your pens and papers ready to write this down? One game, if you have not played it, and I did mention it in a very early stream, I think it might have been my first stream. The game you want to play is called Gubs. That's G-U-B-S. It is a card game, so it's not quite a board game, it's a card game. But oh my god, it is brilliant. I'll pause there and come back to Gubs. Can you see on the model now, when we're looking at just applying this Nuln oil, how it just sits in the recesses and just brings out the depth and definition on the model? That is exactly what we want. So, nice and lightly we apply the Nuln oil just over his white beard, just to bring out to bring out the detail. And also to try and tone down the the white, because you don't want, even a dwarf with the whitest beard is not going to be completely white. Oh no, we've lost camera. That's not good. No, we've lost camera. Okay, we'll just switch back to that for a moment. I will have to see what's happened there. Ah, my battery's run out. Gosh darn it. Okay, that's why it cut out. Well, that's no good, is it? Alright, bear with me, people. Bear with me. Oh, it's zoomed right out. So, what we could do is zoom right in. There we go. So you can see Grombrindle right there. I'm going to have to plug in our camera. Well, that was rather silly of me not charging it. Never mind. We will soldier on and get through this. Here we go. Hopefully we're good in 2 seconds. There we go. Right. Okay. We are back in business. So let's just swap to that. There is like a little cable hanging down here. Ignore it. Foolish me, forgot to charge, so hey, we're going to have to deal with a cable hanging down. But yeah, as you can see, Grombrindle now, on his beard, it's starting to bring out all of that cool detail that he has. Again, we mentioned about minis being important to find the right mini with the right detail. And yeah, it takes a little bit of the white away. The white's cool, and we will go back with some white, weirdly, to highlight. So although we're putting this Nuln oil on now to dull it down, that's absolutely great because it does take away a lot of the colour of the white itself. But we will go back afterwards once this is dry and just get a little dab of white just to bring back some of the whiteness on some areas. I know that sounds a bit weird that you go white, then you use an oil to get rid of the white, but then you come back and put more white on. trust me, bear with me. There is method to my madness, and it does work. So let's just bring this in, but you can see instantly just by applying this how well it works by sitting in those little recesses. It's bloody brilliant. Whoever thought of this kind of paint? You're a genius, man. So here we are, painting this through. So, we've got a couple of people in chat there. What you up to, chat? Come on, holler at your boy. Sounds really weird coming from me, doesn't it, when I say it like that? Oh, shut up. So I'm just applying this Nuln oil across Grombrindle's beard, his moustache. Just so that we can then go back with our whites and go over the top. But that's just for highlighting, so to bring out the areas that you do want to show as bright white. So there might be an area on the model that is really suited to that. So let's just give and see how much, or how little you need of this stuff to make a really good effect. Okay, so by far from perfect, but already can you see the definition and how cool he's starting to look? Just by, putting across a bit of a shading paint. Looks absolutely epic. So, you can tell already he's looking very, very cool. There you go. So he's looking good. Oh, so what we didn't do is we didn't do his eyebrows. That was a bit of a mistake, wasn't it? Never mind, we'll have to go back to those shortly. Whilst he is drying on the beard, let's move across to another section. Might have to do this back piece actually. This is like fur, so I might have to choose a nice grey. And whilst we're looking for a grey, I was talking about Gubs. So Gubs is an awesome game. If you have not played it, Google it right now. Gubs, Gubs, card game. Very simple. You can play it if you're 5 years old. You can play it if you're 50 years old. It's cool. It's just a fun little set of these sort of what are they called? Like, they look like a cross between insects and frogs, and they're called Gubs. And the idea is to be the person with the most Gubs by the end of the game. Now, the way you keep your Gubs is by collecting them as you draw them from the deck. You can lay them on the table so they're worth points, and then you can protect them. You can protect them with various different power-up cards, but there's also cards in the deck that affect Gubs in different ways. So that means that you might lose a Gub and you might have to pass it to someone else, or they might have to lose a Gub and pass it to you, or vice versa, or all the Gubs on the table die. It's manic, but it's so cool. It cost me about, I think about maybe 10 quid max. It wasn't an expensive game, so that's 10 of your British pounds. Not a lot of money. And it's a very cool game. It's fast, it's easy, it's done in about half hour, I reckon, roughly. And it's just super fun. So that is one game at the moment I'm playing, and I would recommend to anyone that is listening right now, go and play Gubs. It is brilliant. So I would definitely recommend that. What else would I recommend? Let's think. What else have I played recently that I really liked? Ooh, here's one really cool game. And I reckon quite a few of you have probably played it. Another card game. Exploding Kittens, that's it. So Exploding Kittens. I'm sure most people have played that. That's a very fun game where you try to be the last one standing with your kittens without getting blown up. Very fun game. Again, fast, easy, got lots of strategy in it, believe it or not. And that's a cool game. So what we're doing on here whilst we go back to our model is we've got this little furry patch on his back, so it's like a bit of a sort of fur coat type thing. What I'm going to do is dry brushing. So dry brushing, I've got this slightly wider paintbrush. I've got my paint that I've mixed up, and I've just dabbed it on the brush, and then I've kind of continually wiped it off till there's not a lot left. Oh, that's a bit too much actually, so and I'm just going to lightly dust over the top. I don't think this is dark enough actually. This is too light as it's coming out. Yeah, so that's too light, so I'm going to have to go back to plan A. But the idea of this is that you don't paint the entirety of the surface that you're looking at. You're very light on your brush strokes as you go over an area, and it just picks up the top areas. So, oh, I'm out of camera. So if you see, for example, it doesn't paint all of that jacket that he's got, that sort of fur coat. It's very light, and it just paints the more raised areas. And it's just a cool looking effect. So it's something that's really worth giving a try if you've never tried it before. That is dry brushing. Because again, it's not always about the amount of paint that you can get onto the model, and that doesn't necessarily make it the best looking model in the world. So just be careful with what you're doing. Actually, I might leave that. The more I look at the grey, I'm actually quite liking it. So I'm just building it up slightly. So I'm quite liking that actually. That's looking quite good. It's better than what I thought. However, there's tiny little bits in there that I'm not going to be able to get to with this big fat dry brush. So I'm just going to rinse that off. And I'm going to have to try the same principle but with a finer brush. A more tipped end brush, because otherwise this big fat brush is not going to get in there. That's the only thing with dry brushes. I've not found one. Hey chat, you might know. Do you know of a dry brush that is thin? So if you look at this dry brush here, it's quite a fat, meaty old chunky end, right? Have you seen a dry brush that's a thinner version? I'd love to find one. I've not found one yet. I mean, I could be completely missing where they are, but I've not found one yet. I would love to know if there is one out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush, bit of a finer brush. Again, get some paint on there, and then try to get the paint off. It's a weird concept. So get the paint on, try to get the paint off. Right. All I want to do... Oh, there's a bit too much on there. I just get in these little... There we go. There, perfect. Okay, it also allows me to get... Oh, bring him into shot. Always allows me to get a bit closer to the rest of the colours as well. There we are. Oh, still some of that null oil that's not quite dried, which is running into the rest of the dry brushing here, which is not so good. That's okay, we can deal with that because we can come back and we can tidy him up, not a problem. So there we go. So there is his sort of fur coat as such. Pretty good, right? So all of a sudden he's starting to take shape, and that's what I love about models when you're painting them. You'll be painting them in 1 minute, it will not really look like much, and then all of a sudden you will end up getting a model that looks absolutely spot on, and it won't be much that you've done in difference, but it will just suddenly click, and then you'll be like, oh, this is brilliant. Well, I change the music because I don't like this background either, not for me chatting away. What else have we got? We have got Springvale, we've got Plains, Mountains, Village. If any of these names that you're listening to, chat, and you want to hear, tell me. We've got Dwarven Kingdom, Cave, Grave. Oh, Dwarven Kingdom, what does that sound like? Because we are painting a dwarf. Ooh. Oh, okay. I like that. Let's go with Dwarven Kingdom. Righty, so what was we doing? So we've got this. Let's leave the head in the top area because that's all quite freshly painted. I want that to dry a bit better. He's got a couple of pouches there on his side. Let's do those. Let's go for this brown here. So remember, have a variety of colours at your disposal. You don't have to have a million. I'm not telling you to go and buy every single paint going, but to have one or two of the colours that you use most regularly, like browns, greens, things like that. If you have a couple of those, it really does help when it comes to your model looking better, because you have the ability to be able to paint different shades without mixing. You can, of course, mix. Of course, you can. And you know, a lot of people do. I'm not particularly great at that, so I won't try. But you know, some people are really good. I've seen before like a colour palette matrix thing where you know, go from one colour to the next, and some of these pros use it. I don't really understand it, so I'll stay away for now. Remember, we are the channel not for pros, but for the amateurs like you and I, just your everyday Joes. So we're just going in here, and we're going to paint the little pouch that's on the back. It's quite dramatic, the Dwarven Kingdom music. So on our board games, we were talking about Gubs and my passion for Gubs, because it's a cool little card game. So what else do I play, or have I played recently that I thought was pretty cool? One strategy game that I am sure there are plenty of you have played is Ticket to Ride. Who's played Ticket to Ride? Anybody? Ticket to Ride is a cool little game, and it is a proper board game in the true sense, where you know, you have a board that you lay out and you have things to conquer and stuff to do, and essentially you are creating taxi routes between one place, or bus routes, or car routes between one place and another, depending on what version you've got. So you draw tasks, and those tasks you then have to build out routes, and you only get them by collecting certain things. And very, very cool game. I like that a lot. Ticket to Ride, good fun. So that is a game I recommend. Ticket to Ride, that's quite cool. Again, it takes about 45 minutes to play, maybe a little bit longer, but not a huge amount of time. It's not like your Monopoly. So that is a cool game. We spoke about cooperative games like Blood on the Clock Tower and Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Forbidden Island, that's a cool one I wanted to bring up, because there's Forbidden Island and then there's a couple of others. So you get Forbidden Island, oh god, I forget all the different variants now. Forbidden Island and Forbidden something else. Forbidden series anyway. It might even be something like Forbidden Forest, Forbidden Skies or something. But essentially you play together. Each of your tokens has a different skill set. That skill set enables you to get into the place you're going to, such as the island, extract the treasure and get out. You can extract the treasure as a team, or you can be selfish as hell, leave your buddies and then just jump off and escape with all the treasure by yourself. Whilst you're trying to collect the treasure, obviously it's not just as simple as walking around. Things change, things happen. The board changes, which is really nice. That's a cool function where different things happen in the board. So on Forbidden Island, for example, things start to sink. So as you play the game, different tiles sink and disappear. I quite like that dynamic because it just means that things are ever changing. It's a bit like, you know, the movie The Labyrinth, a good 80s classic with David Bowie. If anyone has seen that, I'm sure you have. If you haven't seen the film The Labyrinth, then I urge you to watch it this weekend. That is a really cool movie, like a really, really cool movie. It's got some brilliant quotes, got some great scenery in it. Funny moments. It's good for families, it's good for adults. So I would 100% recommend watching The Labyrinth. So if anyone's listening and looking for a movie recommendation. There was even a board game actually. I don't think it wasn't The Labyrinth as in the official Labyrinth, but there was a board game that I played years ago. And the concept was, as you moved around, every time you moved, you had a piece of the labyrinth and you could put it in at any place. And it changed the shape and the dynamics of the labyrinth, which was really cool. I actually really liked a board game for kids, but hey, who cares? Alright, so we've just done that little pouch there on his back, as you can see. So we've done the little pouch and we've done the little bit of leather around it as well. So just a lighter brown with a darker brown on top. Darker brown on bottom with a lighter brown on top. So that's quite cool. You can see there, if we spin around that handle that we did earlier, that's looking really cool now. So bring it up a little bit, you can see that sort of shadow and definition in all the little parts. I like that. That's very cool. Spinning the model around now just to see what else we got. So we do have that there. I suppose we best fill that in as well. There's just areas now that I'm noticing as we're going around that, you know, I've not strategically left out, but decided, oh, I'll do that later just because there's another area that's more interesting, and I've just skipped across. So we'll go and cover a few of those in. There's a little bit of silver to do, so we'll do that. Yeah, so what other games do I quite like? Not quite cooperative, but it's not a board game in the sense you play on a board, but it's laid out like it's on a board. It's a card game that's laid out like that, and it's called Boss Monsters. The reason I'm recommending this game is because it plays like an old school 8-bit video game where you're, you know, going from one side of the screen to the other, like a Super Mario kind of style. And it fits with my sort of discussion we had, or live we had the other week on retro gaming. So you start building out a dungeon in Boss Monsters. So you start with your cards and you draw a boss card. Once you've got your boss of the dungeon, you can then go then to find once you've got your boss of your dungeon, you then have adventurers visit your dungeon, and your aim is to kill the adventurers. Again, which I quite like, because when you're playing games, you're often the good person, right? You don't often get to play as the bad person. So the fact that you're playing as this baddie and you're trying to kill off the adventurers is quite amusing. So you have these adventurers that come to your dungeon, and they're looking for, you know, to get through your dungeon, and to stop them, you lay out certain obstacles for them in the dungeon that will kill them. Each obstacle has its own value or points value, which can help kill off the adventurer depending on how strong they are or not. That's a really cool game. The little graphics themselves on the cards are awesome because they're all sort of 8-bit, 16-bit type graphics. The fact that it plays like a video game is quite cool, in that side-scrolling kind of motion. I like that. So I've got to recommend that. It's pretty easy to play as well. It's not a difficult game to pick up and learn. So that is another game that's pretty cool. So it's probably the trouble is with board games, right? Not the trouble. The beauty actually is there's a bajillion different, and if that's a real word, a bajillion different board games. That does make it quite cool. So when you've got so many to choose from, it doesn't matter whether it's classics like Catan, or whether it's Monopoly or things like that, whether it's all the games that I've mentioned, there's so many cool things that you can try out and have a crack at. And I really like that. I love variation. Even like if it's a Saturday night or whatever, or a Friday night, and I'm getting a takeaway, I will go to the takeaway and I'll try to find something that, especially if it's like a Chinese type takeaway, Thai takeaway, Indian takeaway, I'll try to have something I've never had before. That's just me, because I'm a bit strange like that. And also, I quite like that in board games. I'll try and play something I've never played before, because it's really interesting just doing something different. Like, don't get me wrong, I have my things that I really enjoy, like Dungeons & Dragons, which I'll play again, or Warhammer now that I'll play again. But there are things that are just quite cool just playing for the first time, right? So I do like to give lots of new board games a go. So that's fun, and there's just loads of them, so you can never be without a board game. Oh my lord. My little shaker thing started going off automatically. That's very weird. Must be this eerie music that I've got playing, calling forth the spirits, eh? So, just painting a little bit of detail on a rock here that I missed from before. So, just giving it a little bit of colour. Just to fill that in. Just so we haven't missed anything. There we go. So that rock's filled in. We did miss some rocks here as well, so I'm actually going to fill those in. So let's just do that now. It's nice and easy. Fairly simple. I'll just go over these quite quick, which is nice. So yeah, I do love a board game. So if you could play any board game, and you could have anyone at your table, who would you have at the table, chat? So if you could play any board game, doesn't matter what it is, your sort of choice of players, who would you play the board game with? It's a bit like who would you have your final party with, or whatever, dinner party, but with board games, because that's what we're talking about. So who would be at your table playing board games with you on a Saturday night? They could be from the past, so they could be someone that's passed away, you know, it could be someone famous that you've never met before. So who would you have playing board games with you on a Saturday night? You can have anyone you like. So come on, chat, get active. Tell me who would be at your table playing board games with you. Who's it going to be? So you can play board games with absolutely anybody. So whilst you're thinking about it, I'm going to have a think too. And I think I know my answer already. And that answer would be number one, at my dinner table. At my table, my gaming table. Not dinner table, so I'm not eating dinner. But at my gaming table to play board games with me, I would have number one, Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds from my favourite all-time movie, Smokey and the Bandit. If you haven't heard of that movie before, I suggest you Google it. It's absolutely awesome. It's an old 70s American film. It got me in love with America and everything that's cool about America. So, yeah. So, Smokey and the Bandit, Burt Reynolds, he would be my number one at my dinner table. My number two would have to be Rick Mayall. So Rick Mayall is a British, or was, sorry, bless him, because he passed away. Was a British, same as Burt Reynolds. If anyone's wondering where Burt Reynolds is now, bless him, he's also passed away. But Rick Mayall was a British comedian. He was in TV programmes such as The Young Ones and my favourite TV programme, Bottom. Absolutely brilliant TV programme. If you've never seen Bottom, never heard of it, Google it. I'm sure there's stuff on YouTube. It might even be on BBC iPlayer. I don't have BBC iPlayer, but it might even be on there. I don't know. But that is an epic TV programme. So you should definitely watch Bottom. Not anyone's Bottom, by the way, but you should watch the TV programme Bottom. That is what you should watch. So there's my sad humour level. So he'd be my second guy at the table. So why Burt Reynolds? Well, I read his autobiography. I love his movie, and then I read his autobiography, and he did so much. He was a bit of a playboy, a bit of a sort of player, with the ladies. But he did loads of different cool movies. He was in all the parties. He was very much on the scene throughout the 70s and 80s. So he'd be very interesting. Rick Mayall is absolutely hilarious. That guy is so funny. Like, seriously so funny. So I'd have to have him at the table as well. So I've got this sort of playboy... and Burt Reynolds will have to be in his bandit outfit with his crazy cowboy hat and his crazy tash. So he's going to be in that. Rick Mayall is going to be in his sort of get-up, his blue jeans and his white shirt from the TV series Bottom. Then who would I have at my tabletop game? Oh, my lord. Who would I have? Who else would I have? Oh, crikey. How about you, chat? Have you had a thought on who you would want on your tabletop game? So if you could play any board game with anybody, could be a card game, could be a board game, could be Dungeons and Dragons, whatever, I don't care. If you could play it, who would you play with? Who would be your choices of people to get and invite to the game? Who would that be? Come on, tell me, chat. Tell me. I would love to know. I'm just trying to think of who else would be at my table beyond Burt Reynolds and Rick Mayall. Childhood hero of mine would be the Ultimate Warrior, the wrestler. Just because as a kid I was obsessed with him. So he would be on there, the Ultimate Warrior, because he's mental as well, so it'd be quite a laugh. So he's my third guy. And then who else would I have? So I think... Actually, I think... Oh, I don't know. There's so many cool people now as well. Because all three of those people I've chosen are dead. I didn't realise that. How sad. Oh, we got someone in the chat. Morgan Freeman. This is Hells, by the way, saying she would choose Morgan Freeman, Lewis Hamilton, Amelia Earhart. Is it Earnhardt or Earhart? Is that the lady that did the planes, flew the plane? Amelia Earhart? I think so. Unless I'm getting that wrong. So Hells, do let me know if I'm getting that wrong. But I think it's the lady that flew the plane, right? But yeah, Lewis Hamilton. Not a fan of Lewis Hamilton, to be fair. I'm sure he's lovely in real life, but sometimes I've seen. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him a hard time because he gets a lot of people sort of all in his face all the time. But there's a couple of things I've seen of him that he just doesn't come across very well. So yeah, I don't think I could take Lewis Hamilton onto a board game table. And then if he won, it'd be a right smarmy git. However, Morgan Freeman, love Morgan Freeman. He's cool as hell. Shawshank Redemption is one of my faves. So Hells is saying Shawshank Redemption is one of your fave movies. So you would take Morgan Freeman. That is Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption, isn't it? I am right, I think. I hope so. I'm not misquoting Morgan Freeman. Let's just check that. Shawshank Redemption. Morgan Freeman, is it? Yeah, it is Morgan. I was right. Yeah. Okay, so yes. Phew. So yeah, Morgan Freeman is very cool. I like him in a lot of movies. He is super awesome. So, Honey Ann 42 is saying Eisenhower, George Washington, and Jane Austen. Oh, crikey. Okay. So, 2 former presidents. Is that right? 2 former presidents? Eisenhower is one, George Washington. He is. George, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Again, I'll have to double check my knowledge just to make sure it is Friday. Yes, George. Yeah, he was the founding father. Of course, he is. So yeah, so you'd have Honey Ann. You would have 2 former presidents. That would be pretty interesting. Do you know what? That would be pretty cool because you could sort of quiz them on modern day and what they think of the modern day and what it's going on about, what's happening. So that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd say that's a good choice. So you could get them to talk about what they think of modern day politics and how it's going. Or maybe that's not what you want actually. That might be a bit of a boring conversation. Maybe George Washington's a party boy. He loves to party. How was it saying? I think there must be a delay on this chat. So when you guys type and when I see it. But yes, it is. I'm sure you're replying to me saying about Morgan Freeman. So yeah. So I'm not sure about the delay on this chat thing. Because the way I do the chat, it just comes through OBS. So it's linked to, what's it called? To YouTube. I just see the chat come through. Yeah, so that's cool. What else are we talking about anyway? So we were talking about the rest of your board games and who you'd have at the table. So that's quite a cool thing to do, isn't it? To imagine that. So what board game would I play if I was at that table with those guys? Do you know what? There's plenty of cool games, right? So, you know, we've mentioned a few from, you know, Hero Quest is one of my faves to a few other bits and bobs. Right, but if I had that group of individuals, so I had my Burt Reynolds, I had my Rick Mail, I had my Ultimate Warrior, and I had, let's have one more. Ooh, crikey. So many people I like. Oh man, I just don't know. I don't know. But the game I'd play with them now, I would play a game, because this tonight's all about board games. I would play a game called What Do You Meme? What Do You Meme? If you haven't played it, Google right now, take a look at that. That is a awesome little game. So, the way What Do You Meme works is you have a judge at any one time, and the judge rotates around in the group, and then you have the remainder that are sort of players. The idea of the game is to create the best meme possible. How you do that is in your hand you are given cards which have statements on, generally very funny statements. You have the statements, and then you can take those statements. The judge picks a pictorial card, and the statements, you have to get your statement to match the pictorial card in the best way, the most funny way, so that the judge then votes for your card and you win the point. Absolutely brilliant. So you get sort of some of those classic meme pictures that you've seen, you know, a million times across the internet, and then you have, you know, random statements in your cards. Some of them are rude, some of them are not so rude, but they're bloody funny to play. So that is well worth it. 100%. I would recommend that game to anybody. That's really funny. I just want another different shade here. Where's my other shade gone? Yeah, there it is. So yeah. So what is Oh, Ian Woods is saying he'd have Mike Tyson, Jack Black, 50 Cent, Gordon. Oh, Jack Black! That is a killer. I think Jack Black would be on my fourth guy. He'd be my fourth guy at the table. Yeah, Jack Black. Great shout, Mr. Woods. Absolutely. So Jack Black, what a guy. I saw him at Tenacious D in concert not so long ago. Bloody brilliant. Loved that bloke. He is exceptionally funny. So yeah, Mike Tyson. Oof, Mike Tyson. He's an interesting guy, right? Absolute legend of the boxing world. So if you're, a sporty kind of person, you're interested in sports, yeah, he is your man, right? Because he's been there, done it, done everything. I was really gutted that he didn't fight, was it Jake Paul? That would have been cool to see. I was kind of hoping that Mike Tyson was going to smash Jake Paul into smithereens, but that never happened because the fight didn't happen. Not because he's not capable. I think he'd be more than capable. And I actually think he'd have probably won. But yeah, that is a great shout. So those two suggestions, Mr. Woods. Who have you else you got? 50 Cent. Oh, I don't know about 50 Cent personally. I don't know enough about him to make him an interesting person on my books. But I shall take your word for it, sir. And who else have you got there? Gordon Ramsay. Oh man, Gordon Ramsay. He would just be effing and jeffing all the time, wouldn't he? He'd be telling all the rest of your guests to shut up. But I think he'd be quite a funny person to have, actually, playing a board game. Could you imagine, like, winding up Gordon Ramsay? Oh, my Lord. Some infuriating game like Monopoly. I'm going to swear, he'd lose his shit. He'd go nuts, wouldn't he? Absolutely nuts. But that would make it quite interesting, so I get why you're going there. Yeah, I'm just thinking about that now. That would be pretty cool. I like that idea. What else have we got here? So Honey Ann 42. George, to learn about the founding. Oh yeah, okay. So George Washington, you suggested earlier to learn about the founding father and how that happened, how he became the founding father. Eisenhower to ask about the conspiracy of the alien treaty. Ooh, yeah, Area 51. That would be super cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, I get your point now about presidents. Yeah. Yeah, so if Eisenhower lost your game, you'd say, right, Big E, if you lose the game... Oh, God, I just dropped my paintbrush. But if you lose the game, Big E, all right, you got to tell me all these secrets about the aliens. Oh, my God, that would be pretty cool. And Jane Austen to help keep the conversation going. Because she's a writer. Yeah, but maybe because she's a writer, she's like a complete recluse. And she'd never talk and never say anything. Oh, then that would be awful, because then you'd never get anything out of her. So let's hope she does talk a little bit more. And she's not just good with her words, but she's good to talk to as well. Yeah, but interesting bunch. Oh, I like the suggestions that are coming through on chat. They're very cool, guys. So what we're doing here, just to keep us back in on Grombrindle, is we're giving just some of the little bits around the edge a bit of detailing. So again, with that shade, just to take a little bit of the harshness of the colour off and to bring out some of the sort of recesses and dents in the objects. Just giving it a little bit of a colour. So let's bring him up. There we go. So should be able to see him a little bit better there. So this is what he's looking like so far. So he's looking pretty cool. He's coming along, right? So from looking like not a lot the other day, he's now looking pretty good. He's actually looking like he's, pretty well coloured in. There are finer details that we need to tackle, 100%, but he's getting there slowly. So our Grombrindle is getting there, bit by bit. And hopefully, well, not maybe this session, but perhaps next session, we'll get him to a point where he's finished. Or at least finished to the point where I want to take him to on the channel. So the whole point of me painting models like this is, as I said in my introductory video, the welcome video. If you've not watched it, go and watch the welcome video. But in the introductory video, I talk about basically this channel being the place to learn to paint and learn some small tips and tricks, how to get your model looking good enough so you can put it on a table and not be completely embarrassed that it looks like a piece of poop. I will probably sit there once I've done this session and next session. I'll probably sit there in the background and do some finer details on him to bring him up to how I want him. But to get him to the point of tabletop ready, I think we'll nail that in the next 2 sessions. So it's starting to look a lot better. However, let's get back to it. We were talking about board games. One board game I like. I quite like the games that are interactive between players, right? So it's not just roll a dice, move your counter around the board. They're really cool and they can be fun because there's an objective towards it. But actually what is fun is when you have something that you can all talk about and interact on. So I'm just reaching across, grabbing some more paints. So I like those interactive games. They make it cool. So a game I played not so long ago with a group of pals was called Pick Your Poison. Pick Your Poison is absolutely hilarious. It is a great game to play with friends. I think I would caveat that with you've got to make sure that they are friends that you really get on really well with, because it could offend because some of the cards in there are either a little bit rude or a little bit blunt or whatever. But essentially, Pick Your Poison is a game where you have card A and card B, and they're basically bad things. It could be, I don't know, card A is pick your nose and eat it, or card B is fart and smell it, right? I'm being gross, I know, but that it'll give you 2 horrible outcomes, basically, and you have to then vote on what you think would be the option that the judge would choose. The judge then reveals his choice, or her choice, and if you match your choice to the judge's choice, you score a point. Easy, right? Absolutely easy. The fun part about this game is not really about collecting points. The fun part about this game is when you're playing, you actually get to sit there with your mates and talk about these hideous options that are laid out on the table. So, you know, you'll have option A and option B, and you'll get to quiz the judge about both options, and, you know, why would they choose this, and you get to kind of justify a few things and pick a few holes in stuff, just so you can understand where the judge might be coming from in his mindset or her mindset. And it's absolutely hilarious to find out what your buddies would do in this option, because you'd be like, oh my god, I'd never do that. I could never do that. And then you think, no, my mate won't do that, never in a million years. And then your mate votes for it, and you're like, what the hell happened to you? I knew you, and you've just voted for this crazy thing. So it's really, really funny. I loved playing that with my friends the other week. That was a really cool game. You learn a lot about each other. It breaks down some barriers if you've got like new friends. It will certainly break down barriers. But it is an absolute, I can guarantee you have an absolute laugh with that. And that's called Pick Your Poison. So if you are watching watching for game recommendations, Pick Your Poison is my recommendation there. You should definitely go and take a look at that. Not expensive at all, fairly cheap, but an absolute barrel of laughs. Just noticed we've got some chat coming in, so I'll get to that in a second. Just wanted to add a bit of colour onto this here. So in the chat we got Squarish is saying, only time I've played a board game since I was a kid was the Monster Hunter board game. Lots of need to work together to get the monster, and some of the models for it look epic. I would call them minis, but they were huge. Mate, you're missing out. Like, genuinely, you're missing out. If that's the, like, only game you've played for all this time, you're missing out. There's such good board games out there. Board games, and we've mentioned a few card games, they're so good. Honestly, Squarish, you need to hop on a few of these and play. They're fun, they're easy. There's no real, you know, tying people down to stuff. Like one thing with, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, for example, it's a long game, right? And it can go on forever. And you might have someone like me that absolutely loves it, and you might have someone that doesn't really love it, and it's not really their thing. Okay, well that's absolutely fine. You know, they can then, on a board game, play that game with you, still enjoy it, still have fun, and drop out afterwards. And you've both had an awesome time. So the thing with board games is I think it just caters for a wider audience, right? I just realised I painted something the wrong colour, which, what a fool I am. But yeah, so board games, you should definitely look at them, Squarish, definitely. But it's cool to hear the Monster Hunter board game. I've never seen that. I've played the computer game, and I assume that what you're talking about is in relation to the computer game. I've played that before. That's very cool. I liked that. And you've got these, like, sort of, just for anyone that hasn't played Monster Hunter before, you have these, you are a character that you sort of have to level up and build and make better and faster and stronger. And he has these absolutely ridiculously oversized weapons to do damage. And, you know, you can upgrade your weapons and get new gear and all the rest of it, new armour. It's a cool little series of games. I actually really liked it. I thought it was very cool. The variety is pretty good as well, so there's lots of different enemies. So that is a good game. But it's not a board game, so we'll talk about that another day. So yeah, so we're talking about board games and the fun you can have with board games with your pals. Just sitting around a table and having a laugh. Absolutely perfect. And it's nice to do that. It's nice to get together with a bunch of mates, like-minded people, and have a good old jolly. So, board gaming tips. What would I say is a good board gaming tip? Well, first of all, don't take it too seriously. That's the worst. When people take it too seriously, it can really spoil it. Just have fun with the board game. Make sure it's a board game. I would suggest, this is my preference, I'd say find a board game that is a cooperative one that you can play with people. Because if it's cooperative, it takes out the element where you're against each other. So you don't get that, you know, I need to beat you scenario. And it also means that you do more of this. Talking to each other. Absolutely vital. We're humans. We live by this. If we didn't talk and have social interaction, we'd die. So, you know, do more of it. It's fun. It's enjoyable. So I'd say find a cooperative board game. That would be my recommendation for everybody tonight. Maybe that's your homework. Tonight, go home, or if you're already home, take a look in your house. Have you got a board game knocking about somewhere? Have you got, you know, something that you could play? I'm sure you have. Could you set up a board game night with your buddies, with your neighbours? Crikey, you could probably, don't quote me, but if, you know, you could probably play it if your, I don't know, your long lost sister lives in Australia. You know, you could probably play a board game across the internet now, to be fair, on a live stream type thing. Whether it's a video conferencing call, or, you know, or a YouTube. You know, you could probably play a game together. That's probably more than possible. So there's no excuses. No excuses not to play a game. So yeah, Squarish is saying yes, it's based on the computer games. So the board game is primarily faithful to the mechanics of the... Oh, cool. That's nice. It's always nice if you have played something before, like a computer game, and and it's the game you're playing or the thing you're doing or book or reading, it follows the law or the mechanics of that thing that you originally played, watched, or whatever. It's like, well, watching Lord of the Rings, you wouldn't want Lord of the Rings then to release the second version, it'd be completely different. Instead of orcs, you've got something else as the monster. It just wouldn't make sense. So yeah, following the laws and mechanics is very important. Yeah. So whilst we're still painting, and I'll still try and paint whilst we're doing this, we will have our muscle moment. We wouldn't be the place where the brawn meets the brush if we didn't have our muscle moment. So let's talk about that now. And what did I want to talk about this week? Apart from getting paint on my thumb, I wanted to talk about what consists of a good workout. Very hard question. What consists of a good workout? Because it varies from person to person, right? But I'm going to try and wrap it in a nutshell and give you some kind of idea of what I think is the right answer. And then you guys can always come back and go, no, it's not. And you can tell me what the right answer is. But let's start off with my initial thoughts on what makes a good workout. So I always have this weird saying, if I'm not working out and my eyes haven't fallen out, then I don't feel like I'm working out. Now, that's not always the best approach to take, especially depending on what you're trying to achieve. But I genuinely believe with a lot of people that go to the gym, they do not work out hard enough. Like, genuinely, I've seen so many and they don't. They go to the gym, they, push a really light weight about, or, they'll dab their brow, or they'll mop their brow with a fancy towel, or, they'll be wearing their blooming Apple Watch around their ankle or whatever it is, and they'll be prancing around, but they don't do much. So what for me consists of a good workout is one where you've pushed yourself to the point where you feel that you are expended, your energy is expended. What do I mean by that? So you go to the gym and you're working out, doing whatever that workout is that you're doing. Okay? When you're doing that workout, you must go to the point where you're knackered, where you're physically breathing heavy, where you feel like you can't push another rep, where you feel that you are absolutely done in. It's a hard thing to judge because actually humans don't like to push themselves that hard, generally speaking, and they always try to find the easiest option out and the way out. But you should always push yourself to a point, not of exhaustion where you're going to pass out and faint. That's just stupid. Put some common sense into it. But a point where you feel that you cannot, you're pushing out some reps, you're doing shoulder presses and you're doing this motion, and you literally go up for the last rep and you're like, shaking, and no, you can't do it. That's what I mean. If you're running on a treadmill, okay, don't run to the point where you can have a nice casual conversation with someone. Run, that might be an element of your run, but run to the point where your heart rate's up high. You're pushing it hard. And I don't mean your heart rate's at 200. Again, apply some common sense here. But where your heart rate is pushed and it's working bloody hard. You will not change your body unless you push it past a pain point. That is absolute fact. I don't give a crap what people say. You can just do this, you can just do that. Not in all the years I've done fitness, From the age of 16 all the way to now, you know, from being in the army to modern day life, I have not seen one workout that you can do and you can sit there and it's nice and easy, it's nice and steady, you know, oh, this is easy, and I've noticed a change in my body. Not once. Nothing. Nothing in the gym or doing a workout is easy. None of it is going to be a 2-second thing, and none of it, as in the workout, won't be a 2-second thing, and the results will not come to you after a day. You have to push yourself harder than you have before. The reason is because A, humans are lazy, but B, the reason you're in the shape you're in, or in the position you're in, or whatever that is because you only train to a certain level. You have to flick the mindset and be prepared to go above and beyond and have to dig deep. When you dig deep is when you find your body can grow and change. So that, for me, is my kind of definition of a good workout. So that is my definition of a good workout. And if you can walk away from that workout, I've got too big of a brush here. If you can walk away from that workout and be like, phew, that was hard, you know, genuinely hard. Great, you have achieved what you set out to do. That's fantastic. That's exactly what you want. And that is what I would recommend you strive to achieve every time. How you achieve that, now that's a different thing. So it could be in a variety of different ways. So it could be a weights workout, it could be a run, it could be a walk, you know. So for one person it could be very different to the next, because everybody has different fitness levels, right? Which is completely okay, because everyone has to start somewhere. Starting is the main thing. And that actually is probably part of having a good workout, starting. You know, it's no good talking about it. Get yourself in the gym and do it. Or out on the road, or whatever it is, whatever your exercises you're trying to achieve. So yeah, so that is important. What else is important when you're working out? To have that good workout, an appropriate warm-up, an appropriate cool-down. So, you know, you don't have to do all the weird and wonderful wacky stretches you see yoga people doing all the time. They're very helpful, of course they are, but it doesn't mean that's what you have to follow. But I would recommend that you do some form of warm-up and cool-down to ensure that you're ready for that strenuous task, because you're about to put your body through something that's going to bloody well hurt. So, warm-up and cool-down appropriately is key. Then what else? So, sort of talking about differences between cardio and weights and things like that. This is all circumstantial to the individual that's doing the training. So, whoever you are, whatever you're trying to achieve, you might be wanting to run your first 5k, for example. So, it's not important that you go into the gym and smash weights out 5 times a week. And again, if you're trying to get massive in terms of muscular size or strength, it's not important that you go for a run every day. However, it's a balance and it's a blend. Just like with blending paints here, it's a balance and a blend on what you're trying to do in terms of your body. So take yourself out of your comfort zone when you're training and mix it up. So if you're doing, you know, for me, if I'm doing my weights 3-4 times a week or whatever it is, in between that I'll make sure I've got a jog or a walk or something of cardiovascular to build on that side. You can't really do one without the other. They have to have an element together. It's different percentages that you weight towards where you're trying to go. So, you know, and my rough guess is 70 to 80% of your focus, whether that's cardiovascular or muscular. So if it's cardiovascular, 70 to 80% is your focus on running or rowing or whatever that cardiovascular exercise is that you're trying to get better at. And then your 20% is towards like your strength and conditioning. Again, if you're trying to get massive and get muscles, then 70 to 80% is going to be your strength and conditioning And your 20% is going to be, or 20 to 30% is going to be your cardiovascular. Okay, so try and push it out in those proportions. That would be my setup for a balanced routine, and that would be my definition of a hard workout. So, chat, talking of workouts, before we hit back into the geek topics, who is doing workouts at the moment? What are you doing? How are you doing? How's it going? Is it a good workout? Have you started a new workout? Have you set yourself a new physical challenge? What are you doing, chat? Come on, tell me. Speak to me. Speak to me. What is it you are doing? Tell me what your workout is. Do you need any tips? Do you need some advice on workouts? I'd happily give you some advice. So I'm just putting some paint on here. So I'm using, again, a contrast on this section here. Keep on going out of focus, but I'm just using some contrast on this. But bear in mind, you don't have to use everything, so go lightly. What I have got here, though, is I've got sort of two golds next to each other. I've got like this U-shaped gold of the hilt of this sword, and then I've got the gold on that shield behind it. So I'm actually going to have to change that because it doesn't look quite right. It looks too similar. I have got this layer gold effect. So this is like a lighter gold. If I bring this in, I'll shake it up so it looks a bit better. But you've got this gold, so a Retributor armor, which is more of a darker gold, and this one is a lighter gold, just to bring out the highlights. So I'm going to try and run that over the hilt and see if that changes it. If it doesn't, then we'll have to change it up. So Ian Woods is saying, I want to add cardio to my workouts. Will cardio hinder muscle gain? No. Not really. Again, it's that proportion. If you're trying to get muscle gain, and that's your goal, adding a little bit of cardio is fine. If your cardio ratio becomes more than what your weighted workouts is, then that will start to hinder it, right? So it's that balance. So again, look at what you're doing. 70 to 80% should be weights, and then your 20 to 30% should be cardio. And again, if you're solely going for muscle gain, you might not have to run. It could just be a brisk walk and getting 10,000 steps in. That could be just enough. But again, it kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve there, Ian. If you wanted to do 5k, then obviously you're going to have to do some runs. Okay, if you want to just be able to run 5k, which is absolutely fine, and you want to get slightly bigger on the muscles, as long as you don't go killing yourself on the runs and take it nice and steady, there'll be elements that will be more or less difficult, but as long as your running doesn't become the sole thing you do, you should be absolutely fine. It's more about calorie intake then, and starting to consider your macros in terms of what you eat, because adding that bit of cardio will burn extra calories, which is what you want to keep to be able to have more muscle growth, right? So just be aware of your calories. So let's bring in this in here. Just going to drop that across. It's not really doing anything. That's a shame. Okay. I'll apply it anyway. And then just see what it looks like once it's dried. But I think this might be an area we will have to revisit. Or I might even do that in the downtime in between the streams just to tidy that up. Oh no, it does look slightly darker. So okay, that's a possibility. That's good. So we had another question. So Squarish is saying, unfortunately, closest to a workout for me at the moment is physio. Torn the same rotator cuff for the third time. Oh man, I feel your pain. I've done that exact thing. Well, actually, I lie. It wasn't a full tear on the rotator cuff. It was more of an impingement. But it's very similar. So when you try to hold your arm out straight and lift something up, you can't even lift like a 1 kilogram weight up in front of you because it just absolutely canes into your shoulder. It's horrible. So I feel for you, man. That must be pretty sore. But you're saying although you've got nothing you can do in the upper body wise, there's nothing stopping you in going to the gym and doing legs, for example, a leg session. You know, as long as you're not throwing your arm about and you've got your arm sort of just resting across your chest or something, there is nothing stopping you going to the gym, doing a legs workout, nothing stopping you from doing a jog or getting your steps in. So you can still do your 10,000 steps, you can still do a legs workout, you still have that option. You can still do some abs as well, you can do some core work, you know, and so that is more than an option for you. So that is available, so don't forget the other bits. Sometimes it's quite easy just to sort of, you know, admit defeat. And I'm not saying you are squarish, by the way, in any means. I'm just saying it is quite easy to do so, because I'm talking from personal experience of doing it and looking back and thinking, God, I should have just bloody done X, Y, Z. Why did I not do that? Blah, blah, blah. And I end up beasting myself. So I'm talking from personal experience here and frustration on not getting things done. So yeah, so there are other options, dudes, so don't give up. And remember, physio is still a workout. So physio is still a workout. The physio should still have you, you know, doing certain rehabilitation exercises to bring you back online. So, you know, don't give up, don't stress. Just follow the program, though. But ask them, say to him, can I do a legs workout? He'll know the best, because he's seen your injury and he knows where you are on that road to healing. But he'll know, so, you know, just ask him. See what he says, or she says, sorry. I say he because I'm referring to myself all the time. But, yeah, ask your physio what they think. And I'm sure they will recommend some form of rehabilitation exercise to bring you back up to speed again. Yeah. So that was our muscle moment, peeps. We've had that for this evening. Thank you for your questions coming in on chat. I much appreciate those. Always lovely to be speaking to you guys and girls. We're almost at the end of the stream. So this is our 5th stream here at Minis and Muscles. We're still going. I'm still here just about. But we're still going. Which is pretty cool, right? So we're up to, what, 79 subscribers, I think it is. So, come on, do pass out the good word. Tell your friends and family all about it. Even if they, you know, your grandma's not sure whether she wants to watch crochet or whether she wants to watch Minis and Muscles. Just tell her Minis and Muscles is better. Granny will be fine. And hello, Granny, if you're watching this. If your son or daughter has, or if your grandson or granddaughter has told you to tune in to Minis and Muscles and you're now watching, welcome, Granny. Lovely to have you on board. This is the place to be. And I tell you what, Granny, painting miniatures is massively relaxing. You like your crochet? Well, this is like crochet times 10. It's awesome. So get yourself down a model shop. Buy yourself some minis. You will love it. Like, genuinely, grannies will love this. So here what we're doing is we're just painting a little bit of detail onto that axe. So you can see there that sort of reddy kind of, bronzy kind of red. It's just onto that axe. But he is starting to look pretty cool and it's starting to fill out all these little areas. So I'm really happy with how this is coming out so far. There are bits and bobs that we're missing. But, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. And that's what the joy of a model is. When you know, get a model like this and you start to paint them and you see all the things starting to come together, it starts to look really impressive. And that's the cool thing about miniatures, right? The more you paint, all of a sudden it just changes. And I think this episode actually, Grombrindle has changed. When I looked at him earlier, I was like, God, there's so much to do. And now I look at him and I'm like, oh crap, he's looking absolutely epic. So yeah, so Grombrindle was looking pretty cool. I am going to tidy a couple of bits up in the downtime in between the next stream. But I won't paint, you know, masses. I'm just going to tidy some little bits up on him. But he's looking good so far. So, we are coming to the end of our stream, our 5th stream. Can't believe it. I cannot believe that you're still with me. You're still listening. You're still talking to me. I massively appreciate it. Your comments, your love, your attention in the chat helps me get through a very easy 2 hours of streaming. I will sort of end my stream with a voice, which is nice, just about. Because I do a lot of chatting here, but it's always a pleasure. Absolutely always a pleasure. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that is watching. No matter where you are, no matter who you are, absolutely love you. Thank you. Keep it going. Likes, comments, subscriptions on any of the posts I make. And apologies, there's not been a huge amount. I have got the new camera now sorted. Work has been a little bit crazy. I will try to get some tutorial videos out this week. And at least some shorts. Come on, Steve. Root for me. I need to get some done. But thank you so much. I really appreciate all the comments, as I said, whether it's Honey Ann, whether it's Hells, whether it's Ian, whether it's Squarish, whoever it is that's commenting in the chat. Thank you. Love you guys. Keep it going. Pass it on to your friends and family. Likes, comments, subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Make sure you join us next week at 7 p.m. BST. So that's Friday, 7 p.m. BST, where I will be doing another live stream, and we'll be here for the 6th episode of Minis and Muscles. We will talk more geek, we will talk more fun, we will paint more models, and we will chill out together on our usual Friday night stream. Apart from that, I don't have any other social media accounts at all to link you to. But if you did want to look on the link tree that's in the YouTube details of the Minis and Muscles page, you will find links to... what have I got on there now? I think I've got Twitter on there, but it doesn't broadcast currently on Twitter. I'm going to try and get it broadcasting on both platforms at some point. That will happen. So you have a choice of YouTube or Twitter. Sorry, YouTube or Twitch. God, I don't even know what I'm talking about. YouTube or Twitch. They're two actually on the screen right in front of me right now, or down here, YouTube and Twitch. No, that way and that way. That's it, down there. So hopefully it will stream on both at some point. So you can follow us on there. There is a Patreon page as well. If you want to jump on the Patreon, you are more than welcome to do so. Don't feel that you have to, but you can if you wish. Next week, when we join back up again for the 6th rendition of Minis and Muscles Live, we will talk more geek. Next week, I'm going to talk to you in more detail about Warhammer. I know we did it only last week. However, last week was like a 1-hour stream. I didn't get to cover all the things I wanted to talk about, so I thought I'd best talk about them and finish that off really, because there's a couple of cool things. But anyway, apart from that, people, thank you. I love you. Take it easy. Enjoy your weekend. Make sure you rest up. And I will see you all very, very soon. Thanks very much.